we're live. So I'm here today with Alexandra Gardner. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dennis. Thanks for having me.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Glad to have you here today. I just, for those on the audio feed, I just talked to Rob Deemer yesterday in real time, and who knows what the actual release schedule will be like. If you guys will come out on the same day or not. Um, and I was telling him that I just had got strep the other day.
What?
Yeah, like
Oh,
I
no.
got back from a friend's wedding and woke up just all disgusting, and then the antibiotics just totally kicked its butt.
I was going to say, you sound fine to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Monday was really weird, really feverish, and then or no, that was Tuesday, and Wednesday, had the antibiotics Tuesday evening, totally fine. Yesterday morning, so
Nipped
I'm
it in the bud.
yeah, it's the joys of medicine, modern medicine. So, enough of that. So, Alex, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, what you've done, all of that stuff.
Sure. I am a composer, surprise, surprise. And I write music for a variety of musicians and ensembles of various shapes and sizes, solo instrumentalists, chamber ensembles, orchestra, band. I also do quite a bit of electronic music,
Hmm.
and combine the instrumentalists with electronics. That's kind of a specialty
Hmm.
of mine. And I also do, as a result of having begun my musical life as an electronic musician and being good with computers, have also sort of spent a lot of my life doing various digital media work in the
Nice.
world. So I spent a lot of time as an audio engineer and digital media consultant. I recently, and this is how we met, I think, worked several years at NewMusicBox and
Hmm.
as an editor,
Yeah.
as one of the three editors of NewMusicBox. So, yeah, so I have kind of a life divided between composition and digital media things related to music.
Nice. Nice. So when you were at yeah, that was definitely how we met through New Music Box when I wrote an
Yeah.
article through there.
Actually, I remember I was thinking today, since I knew we were doing this, I was thinking that I think I first became aware of you because you really expertly live tweeted one of our live events. And
Oh,
I had no idea who it was, but I remember I was paying attention because that was my job. And I remember thinking, what, this is great. What is this guy doing? He's doing it really well. Thanks, Dennis Tovensky, whoever you are.
I I I wish I remember what event was that?
It was I wish I could remember. It was a live event at, it might have been about the when the American Music Center and Meet the Composer were merging. I think it was a merger
Yeah, it was the big
explanation live event at, I want to say, Symphony
symphony.
Space.
Yeah, symphony
Yeah,
space. Yeah,
yeah,
I remember that was kind of a big deal at the time, and so
right,
I just thought, like,
yeah,
there are a lot of people who can't be here, and I know that I have a reasonable following on Twitter, so
yeah,
why not just like put out like as succinctly as possible what everybody's saying. Yeah.
right,
Um, I had fun doing that. Though it was a
yeah.
little bit like, listening and thumb typing.
That was really good. Usually, when strangers live tweet things, they get things wrong and it's terrible, but this was not the case at all. It was very,
Oh, good,
yes,
good, good,
good.
good. Well, I try not to spread too much misinformation. You know.
That's good.
Mhm. By the way, become a composer so that you can like make tons of money. Oh wait, no,
Right.
that's misinformation. That's wrong. That's
It's
wrong.
terribly, terribly wrong,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, damn it! Why didn't I become a doctor? um, so when you were at the New Music Box, what were like you were one of the editors.
Yeah.
So what all did you do there, and what was that experience like?
I did, well, we all kind of would band together and decide what kinds of things we wanted to do, each of
Hmm.
us, and then run away and go do them and bring them back and work on them together. So I, like Frank and Molly,
Hmm.
I wrote articles for NewMusicBox myself, but I also manage the daily posting and dealing with content every day. NewMusicBox is a WordPress site, so spend a lot of time, posting and making everything look pretty and reading nicely and everything. I also would hire people to write articles or otherwise field out people who are interested in writing articles and sort of manage that process from beginning to end with our different writers. We have, at the time we had sort of a, stable, if you will, of people who would write for us regularly, and then people come in and out and want to do special things. And so I would help manage that process and make sure that articles got written and done in the time that they were supposed to, things like that. And also with the other editors, we would together plan sort of who the featured artists, composers, and musicians would be each month. So, at the beginning of every month, we would do a big splashy video interview, and then another one in the middle of the month with a different composer. So we would sort of plan those. They were often planned months ahead, to sort of figure out how to, because usually they were people who needed to be scheduled well in advance to make sure that they had time or were in town or whatever. So so I did a lot of the scheduling and the filming and the writing and the interviewing, depending. Yeah, we all would sort of shuffle around roles.
Nice.
That way.
Yeah, it was fun working with you on the article that I wrote. I can't believe it's already like a little over 2 years ago.
Was it that
It was
long?
like February of 14.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It's kind of, because I wasn't just yet a full year out of day job land when that happened.
Right.
That was fun to write that, and then to get everybody's feedback. And I think I'm pretty sure it was you. I frequently used the term self-pubbed, and because it's just, I read so much about books and
Sure.
like all the writers there are like, self-pub stuff, indie-pubbed. And you were like, I don't think we use that term. Like, can we just say self-published? I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, we try to be aware, of, jargon.
Yeah.
Jargon that a reader coming for the first time wouldn't necessarily know what it is. We all know what you mean, but just to be friendly to as many people as possible. Yeah.
And then there were the few of my my bitchier lines in there that you guys helped me to tone it down just a hair. I still stirred shit, but
it's good to stir it up. It's good to stir it up. Yeah.
I got called a jerk on one podcast.
Aw, what?
Yeah, it was very fun. I was like, okay, you think so?
Well, as they say, never read the comments.
I know, right? Oh, I made that mistake. I don't think I responded, which was smart.
Yeah.
That was dumb. So yeah, that article, for people who don't know, I wrote a whole 4,500 word tome on pricing your scores, and I think I originally heard from Franco Terry that you thought that my prices were even low based on my even though I used my little formula. So yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. And part of this podcast is just me learning about my own stuff.
Right.
So I definitely want to get your thoughts on how I price my scores and how you price yours, and what you think people should generally do, like rules of thumb or just thoughts of yours.
Right. Pricing. Yes, I remember that. I did think that your prices were a little bit low, but I appreciate all the sort of working through it that you did, which was very scientific, and my methods are less scientific. But in terms of pricing things, that's, it's everybody's individual choice how you price your, I'm like you, I'm a self-published composer. I deal with my own, sending out my own scores and parts and rental materials and everything. I remember when I was figuring out how to really price things, I did quite exhaustive research by just looking at a trillion composer websites who also self-published,
Yeah.
and sort of figuring out what, what made sense, what felt like the right amount for me. I mean, how much work you put into your
Hmm.
scores,
Yeah.
into writing your music and everything, and how much work you put into, dealing with the parts and
Hmm.
all the administration that deals with that. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of things. So, my feeling has always been, I want to feel like that is acknowledged in my
Hmm.
pricing. Like people are paying for the music and the work that it took to make this,
Hmm.
to make this happen, and the, sort of blood, sweat, and tears of writing it,
Hmm.
and making sure that it is professionally presented in a way
Hmm.
that musicians can take it and play it and
Hmm.
have a successful time with it. So yeah, I did exhaustive research with tons and tons of composer sites, and some were very high and some were very low. And I did kind of pick an in between
Hmm.
place for my material that felt comfortable to me, but not. I didn't feel like I was lowballing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate. I'm very aware of this because I know that I am personally like totally a lowballer on lots of things. So I'm always like checking myself to be like, do I feel good about this
Yeah.
situation? Um, so I figured out pricing, first for the scores of mine that are most popular,
Hmm.
um, and uh, and that has been successful. I've never had anybody complain and say, oh, I that's just too,
Hmm.
that's too expensive. And there were times when I thought people might, and they were like, oh, great, send me an invoice. That's
Hmm. Nice.
so woo,
Yeah.
success.
That's good.
So I feel like I found a good spot
Hmm.
for myself. That said, I don't have an official sort of online score you can, excuse me, store you
Hmm.
can order it yourself
Hmm.
situation on my website right now. People do contact me though to for orders and things, but that's the next project.
Yeah.
But
The next
that won't
iteration.
change my prices.
Yeah.
They kind of are what they are.
Nice.
But yeah, I think it's worked out, and like I said, I've never had a complaint, and I feel good about the prices.
Nice. Nice. I don't remember. I mean, I could look because I've got your website open in a tab here. Do you post the prices on the website or
I
do you?
don't. I
You don't.
usually wait for people to contact me, and then I
Okay.
just tell them, what it is. Like I have a series of pieces for solo instrument with
Mm-hmm.
electronics that are really generally really popular,
Mm-hmm.
and most of those pieces are kind of all the same price.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
I kind of base it on mostly the number of parts that
Mm-hmm.
are involved, and the length of
Yeah.
the piece.
Yeah.
So, a longer piece will obviously be a little more, but
Mm-hmm.
and a shorter piece less. But it's more about how many parts. The solo instrument with electronics I kind of count as two parts,
Mm-hmm.
a duo in a way, and then quartets will be a bit more, and then larger chamber ensemble more. It's pretty straightforward,
Yeah. Yeah.
the pricing scheme. Once you figure out like the smallest ensembles, then you can
Mm-hmm.
sort of go up in a way that makes sense from
Yeah. You
there.
can scale it up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. My thing. My the formula, that's the word, that I tend to use, and I've tweaked it since that
Mm-hmm.
article. You live and learn. I tend to take I look at the number of pages in the score and in the parts, and I figure out what it's going to cost me to print it, and so I know what my costs are there, and then tack on whatever percentage that I know a distributor will take, uh, and then figure out what then how much I want to make off of it, and sort of, and there's a lot of reverse engineering that sometimes has to happen.
Oh yeah, totally.
That
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in probably the one space where I have most room to grow is in my share of it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, I don't want to get screwed on. Okay, this is going to cost me $20 to print, but I'm only going to charge 15. It's like no, like if it's going to cost
No,
me twenty
yeah,
dollars to print, I have to
exactly.
have
Make
that.
sure that you make
Yeah,
what you want to make.
yeah, I know that when I throw it up on Sheet Music Plus through
Yeah,
SMP Press, then I know this is how much they're going to take, and so this is how much I'm going to earn at the end. Um,
right.
and yeah, I think my I think for that article, my share was like 20% of the list price, and I could definitely stand to raise
Hmm.
that a little
Agreed. Agreed.
bit.
Yeah. But you've done it a smart way too, where if you have it on Sheet Music Plus or some kind of distribution service, you don't have to worry about it once it's up there. People can buy it and get it,
Yeah,
and you're done.
yeah. So far, I haven't made a
Yeah.
lot of sales there, but it's the place where I've made the most sales. Go through like there and Music Spoke, and I've considered a few others, but I'm trying to figure out if they're cost effective because sometimes you have to pay to be
Yeah.
part of the
Oh, no, no,
services,
no, no. Yeah. You
and
don't want to do that.
I'm a
Yeah.
little bit like, is it really worth $50 a year or $100 a year to maybe make a sale? My answer is generally no right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But um, but yeah, I think I did a lot of research as well. I went to a bunch of self-published composers' websites and also to like Boozy and Shermer and here and there, and just to see, okay, this piece is roughly the same length as mine. It's I own this. I know that it's roughly the same number of pages as mine. How do you price it? Okay, I'm a little lower than you. That's fine. Or
Hmm.
I'm in the ballpark of where you are, so
Right.
I'm comfy with that.
Right. I think that sort of honestly, also age and experience have,
Mm-hmm.
you can add that in too. I mean, if I've been a composer for over 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's okay to,
Yeah, to bump it up a little bit.
bump it up a little bit, so things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, and definitely when I think when you're younger, you might want to stay a little lower just to make the barrier to entry a little easier
Maybe a
for
little bit.
yourself.
I mean, if it's your, very first, baritone and piano score,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to, yeah, have it be hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That would be lovely. However, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know a few people who I'm working on a website for another composer and putting his store together, and I'm
Hmm.
looking at the prices that he's listed. I'm like, okay. I mean, yeah, I mean you are much more advanced in your career than I am, but wow, those are high prices. But whatever you can
If it
manage.
works,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a test.
Yeah.
Time will
Sometimes
tell.
yeah, you can get feedback on it and
Yeah,
say, does this seem reasonable or
right.
that sort of a thing.
And if people click away and go, oh no, no, that's not okay, then
Yeah, yeah. Um, so you when so you say you don't have an actual storefront on your website, which I love.
I
Let
don't.
me say this publicly. I love Alex Gardner's website. I think it's really, really gorgeous. You
Oh,
do
thank you.
wonderful. I'm gonna
That's very
actually
nice.
click
It's
around
a
it right now
a
while we
a
talk.
labor of love.
It's really well done. Is it based on any particular content management system or
It's a WordPress site,
nice?
and there is a theme that I use and have slightly tweaked here and there
Mm-hmm.
to do what I want it to do. But yeah,
Yeah, I love the full page photos in the background
thanks. Yeah,
because you're also
one of my side sort of interests is photography, and when I made this website, I was like, wait, I have all these pictures. I can put them with my. This is great. It'll be
yeah,
colorful, and I have
yeah,
something to do with all these bajillion pictures that I have taken over the last few years. So
yeah. It's really perfect, and I think it's it's not only like visually just gorgeous, but it does what Alex Shapiro talks about,
mm,
with her website, where she has, or particularly her blog, Notes from the Kelp, where it marries it's kind of her web presence with her personal interest of marine biology and all of that, where
Yeah.
she's writing about the foxes outside her door and the
Right.
whales off the shore and all of that, and it really it brings, and she's also a photographer, and so she'll put that. I think that's a really smart way of marrying your interests, and kind of showing that you're a multi-dimensional person.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's nice. I think it's nice to, yeah, if you can figure out on your composer website or your whatever website for whatever you
Mm-hmm.
are, you know, how to make it more personal,
Mm-hmm.
how to make it personal and keep it professional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of ways to do that.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, yeah, the photography made it sort of easier to put together and nice. And you know, over the years, I've also learned that for composer websites, especially since a lot of people don't know, you know, about necessarily composer websites, like you have
Mm-hmm.
to make it really easy to
Yeah.
for them to find all the things you want them to find.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I know, you know, I've again this website and well, I've had a website for years, but
Mm-hmm.
it's always come from exhaustive research of other composer websites, and a lot of them
Mm-hmm.
are, you know, frankly, just awful,
Yeah.
terrible, you know, and um, you don't need to reinvent the wheel to make
No.
a nice website.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just looking. Actually, when a few days ago, I was looking through here, and I I love the amount of information that you give. I think it's so
Oh, thanks.
just it.
Well, it's the basics, you know.
Yeah.
What is the piece? What is it
Mm-hmm.
called? How long is it?
Mm-hmm.
What instruments are in it?
Yeah.
If
Stuff
there's
like
a
that.
recording, smack it there, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have, do you have program notes for everything on here, or just
I
most of
have
them?
program notes for pretty much everything. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because I know when I have run, when I ran the Tibetsky Algebra concert series a billion years ago, and even now when I still sort of put on programs, I go hunting through composers' websites to find new
Hmm.
rap, and I say, I know of this person. I'm sure they have some vocal music. Maybe I'll program something, and almost every time I see, oh, they do have a cycle for tenor or baritone, because my voice goes either way, and piano. And okay, it was written last year and it's 15 minutes long. Next, like, there's no recording. I don't know who wrote the text. I don't. There's no program. No, just no, no.
Yeah.
Next.
Not helpful. Not helpful.
Yeah,
That,
not
yeah.
helpful at all. And
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
just young composers. There's some.
Oh no, it's, yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
There's one particular Pulitzer Prize winning composer's website that I think is really dreadful, and all of my friends seem to think so too. We use that as an example in our own conversations, and I will not say the name.
no, no, no. It's good to not call them out. That's,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's actually, unfortunately, there are lots and lots of highly decorated, fantastic
Mm-hmm.
composers whose websites are not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but that's, you know,
Yeah.
some of them have publishers, and maybe the thing is, you know, my publisher will take care of that information. It's all there, so why bother, you know? But
Yeah. Yeah. But
I used to, in my youth, I had a cynical theory that, you know, there was an inverse relationship between the how good a composer's websites were and how popular they would be.
that's great.
So, there's some super bad ones, but but yeah, I'm really all for making it really as easy as possible for somebody who wants to find
Yeah.
a piece. Um, you know, make it as easy as possible to find it and get the information that they need. That said, it's interesting. I was just talking to somebody else about this, and this kind of is a constant frustration of mine. Like, as you said, I put program notes on every piece
Mm-hmm.
that has them. There's a couple that don't, but they're, you know, they're right on the website. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter almost whenever I have a concert, I will receive an email with the programmer or whoever,
Mm-hmm.
publicity person, asking me to send program notes for the piece. And this is sort of under my always be a professional, no matter what thing. It doesn't matter. It's frustrating. You nicely answer the email and you just suck it up and send them the program notes in the email. It's very tempting to go like, oh yeah, they're on my website. Here's the link, And I feel like that's probably not the best way to handle that. I always say, if they ask for a lot of things, I might send them the program notes and say, oh, by the way, my bio is on my website. Here's the link right here. But yeah, this happens 98% of the time that I receive personal emails, wanting me to send them the things, even though the things are readily available. And that's just I try to be efficient.
It was there for you, but I guess, all right. We'll
yeah. That's okay. That's the way the world is.
if that's the price of getting a performance, fine.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. And it helps, if you answer requests like that in a kind way, then, they will like you better and you will maybe get more performances. So just building rapport with your people who care about your music,
Yeah.
It's important to be cool about that, even if you're like,
okay.
Yeah.
Grit your teeth and smile.
Yeah.
See, what other things do you think that composers like maybe should do or tend to do wrong, or just ideas you have about websites, opinions? You said on Facebook, I have opinions. I'm like, yes, I have opinions.
I think I kind of already said it, which is just basically make it really easy for people to find what they need.
Yeah.
Have one page with all of the things. Don't make people click 8 times to find the program notes and the audio and the thing. Each piece that if you have a piece that you want out into the world, have one page with all the information that somebody will need to put it on a concert.
Yeah.
I feel like that's very straightforward, and it doesn't happen as much as you would think it was. So, or that you would think it would. So,
yeah. And as someone who has designed a lot of websites for composers, I've found over the years, I've obviously, if I didn't learn a lot of stuff, I'd be an idiot. But so I've learned a lot of stuff about organizing the information, and I find that even though it's a little bit more work, doubling up the putting the same information in multiple places can make life so much easier for
redundancy. Totally. Yeah.
Like
you want
your audio
you want
page and putting that audio also with the work, so that
totally
you don't have to make people click around and find it's just
don't make people click, because they're going to get frustrated and they're going to leave.
So
too much clicking. People don't have time.
If you have a recording of this piece, put it on the page for that piece, and also put it on your audio page.
If you have a media page with videos and stuff, that's great. People can go to one place and find lots of cool things, and then if they want to get more serious about a particular piece that they saw a video about, have it easy for them to go get all the other things.
Exactly.
On a page.
I have found it frustrating in the past, going to looking through, okay, these are the vocal works by this composer. There are no recordings with anything. So I have to go over to the audio page and see, do they have recordings for, okay, that piece that seemed most interesting, they don't have a recording. So what are the other, okay, that one looks okay. There is a recording, but it's not great. But still, it's there. Why can't it be on the works page too?
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that, a lesson that I had to learn in the last couple of years also is that with websites, if you're doing, if you're involved in classical music, especially if your music is included in concerts that also have standard repertoire on them, for instance, it may be that people looking to program are older than you and may need a less complicated situation to find your stuff online. So, which means, as much as I love super fancy websites with moving parts and scrolling and this and that and things that pop out and stuff, that like, don't do that for if you're doing classical music, make it simple, make it look nice, but all of the, there's a lot of sort of, for instance, WordPress themes that are super, super cool, but they're confusing to people who are not, who may not be always online looking at groovy websites. So, keep it simple. Keep it simple. I think that's important because there are some composer websites that are very nice, but they look lovely and do really fun, cool things, but they would be confusing for somebody, maybe a 65-year-old who needs to program something on this series. That's the reality for classical music. If you can make something that's simple but looks, that just looks professional and good and colorful, interesting, what have you, but it doesn't need to sort of have things flying across the page and a lot of movement and complicated things that are not intuitive. Best to avoid for the classical music, I feel like. That's the reality.
I found a number of websites out there, and I think it's fewer over the years. I think people start to redesign their sites. I've seen ones where the navigation, bar or whatever, rather than just saying home, bio, works, media, contact, it's icons, and you don't necessarily, it's not there's no word on it. You can't just like it's not always intuitive. Like, is this eighth note up in the thing? That icon, is that for to listen to it, or is that to learn about the pieces,
or to get the score, or what? Like,
I don't know
what?
that
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
that's weird.
It's when I first made my current website, I had my pieces listed in a really nice, like, what I thought was a very beautiful sort of portfolio situation, and everything had a picture in front. I had done some special coding to make it look really awesome, and everything could be filtered by ensemble type and everything in like a photographer portfolio scenario. So things would move and stuff.
I
but
I was thinking, like, where did that go?
And finally, and there were just enough comments from people who were like, that looks really nice, but I don't understand, So I got, sadly, it made me sad, but I got rid of it and just sort of had a standard list of works, and you can choose by category. So sometimes, you can't always achieve the full dream.
No, but I really do like the way that you have everything listed out here. It's smart. You've got title, year, just in the basic listing, title, year in parentheses, what the instrumentation is, and the duration. That's enough to be able to now click through to the full information of what the piece is. And so terribly often, I find that that's all you get. Like, you don't get to click through with so many other composers' websites. It's just, you have the title, the year, the instrumentation, and maybe the duration, or what, maybe not the year, maybe not the instrumentation, or probably the instrumentation, but you don't get to click through to a full page of information with recordings and program notes. Just that sort of really basic, unhelpful, completely unhelpful list.
Right. I think the important thing is for if you're building your own website, to think about, what you would want to know if you had to program a concert. What would you want to know about if you were looking for things that you had no idea about and you found this website? What would you need to know to choose this or that piece? And do that for yourself, or get somebody to help you. I mean, I know that, we don't have a ton of disposable income to necessarily hire people to do things for us, but it is worth, getting with a friend, a
Mm-hmm.
web savvy friend, or a programmer or somebody who
Mm-hmm.
knows websites to
Yeah.
at least talk through what you need
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy
in the
to
website,
set up
or
a
how to do what you need.
yeah.
How to make it work.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to set up. Like my site is based on WordPress as well. It's
Mhm.
very easy to set those up, and you can get a handy dandy little theme that kind of does most everything for you. But yeah, to talk to somebody who either they have a good website or they design websites and they kind of know how to put this together, to just ask them a couple of questions and find out how can I best organize this? What's the best way for me to
Mhm.
present information where you don't necessarily have to you know shell out all the money to have them do it for you, but you can sort
Exactly.
of consult with them, maybe buy them a drink, or throw a few bucks their way or something, take them to lunch, um, and just get advice so that you can do it right and not try to reinvent the wheel,
Right.
which is we all, we, we all frequently want to reinvent the wheel. I know
There's a lot of reinventing wheels.
yeah,
Yeah. There's
I've reinvented so many wheels, and they come out square a lot. End up the wrong shape.
Well, although our musical lives are always changing now, there are certain things that have been happening for a really long time, and wheels don't need to be reinvented.
Mm-hmm.
New ensembles are formed
Mm-hmm.
all the time. They
Mm-hmm.
have been for years and years and years. One does not need to reinvent the wheel with how to deal with an ensemble. You just
Mm-hmm.
have to, figure out figure out who to talk to, where to look
Mm-hmm.
for information.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, get the targeted advice that you really need.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And
That said, if people want to reinvent things, I know that that's cool.
yeah.
You can, yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
There are certain infrastructure issues though that don't need to be reinvented.
Yeah, yeah. There's the podcast that I listen to all the time. They talk about different activities being um, well, adhering to the way that they interpret the 80-20 rule. The traditional 80-20 rule is that 80% of your um, 80% of your results comes from 20% of your effort,
Right.
and they have a it's kind of the same ish take, but it's a little skewed. They say basically they think of how should you really be spending 80% of your time, and how should you the rest of it can go in that in the 20%. You want to sort of turn that around so you're not wasting your time. And so yeah, you really want to be spending that much of your time reinventing certain wheels? If you do, fine, but is this a distraction from writing? Is this a distraction from doing other things that you can do and probably should be doing? Or is this something that will actually have a positive and measurable impact on your career and your
Exactly.
ability to get your
Yeah.
music out there?
That's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I have fallen into many of those traps, frequently redesigning my own site.
As have we all. I think yes.
Yeah, just so do as I say, not as I do,
Yeah,
or
right.
have done. Have done. I haven't
Right.
redesigned it in a couple of
Right.
years. Um,
Right. Right. We're always learning
yeah,
our whole lives.
yeah.
That's the cool thing about composing is that, and having your own, or and self-publishing and doing things on your own is that,
Hmm.
you're just always learning.
Yeah,
That's, it never stops.
yeah,
You're never like, okay, that was it. Oh,
yeah.
great.
I figured it out.
I figured
Time,
it out. Done.
yeah. Time for a nap.
Yeah. As much
S-
as we would like one.
yeah, I know. Yeah. So you were saying, I mean, we're kind of already in this path already. You get asked a fair amount of advice from people having
Yes.
been visible through NewMusicBox and your web presence and all the things that you do. I'm curious to know what the main things are that people ask you. Is there like a kind of a typical thread of things that people say, "Oh, how do I do this?" or "What do you think about that?" Is there anything normal?
I get a lot of should I get a doctorate
Mm.
questions from
Mm-hmm.
students. Should I go on and do this?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. So I think that's why they come to me and ask. So I get
Mm-hmm.
a lot of should I have my master's? What the
Mm-hmm.
heck do I do now?
Yeah.
And some self-publishing questions,
Mm-hmm.
how have you been able to continue being a composer for almost 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So the big life questions,
Yeah,
which of
yeah.
course, like, oh, okay, let me try to
Yeah.
give good advice. Give good advice, or at least ask the right questions. Really, it's not about giving advice. It's about, learning to ask yourself the questions that need to be asked
Mm-hmm.
and find the answers.
Yeah, yeah.
Find answers.
Yeah, I would
So,
assume that the quote unquote answer to the doctorate question is in itself just a series of questions to make them look at what
yeah,
they want and what they
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's what, when I was doing my master's, and uh, I actually didn't, my musical life didn't sort of grow up around a culture where it was assumed that I would get a doctorate and become a
Mm-hmm.
teacher. My studies were kind of a little bit different that way, so it wasn't just an automatic I'm going to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't consider it until I was getting my master's, and then I was confused because I didn't love being a student, and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't sure that I wanted to spend 4 or 5 more years being a
Mm-hmm.
student. And so I went to some of my composer mentors and said, what do you think? And they all said, well, you know, if you're not interested in teaching, then
Mm-hmm.
save yourself that time and
Mm-hmm.
that money
Mm-hmm.
and go do stuff,
Yeah.
go do your thing. So that's kind of, I think that was the best advice. And that's kind of what I tell people. If you really want to be a professor, um,
Mm-hmm.
then go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it with the understanding that that is not a given
Mm-hmm.
now in 2016.
Yeah. Yeah,
And that
definitely.
has nothing to do with the person or
Mm-hmm.
how smart they are or what awesome school they go to or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not, there's too many composers
Mm-hmm.
for all the jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you really want to be a professor and you think that getting a doctorate will be helpful, um, then yes, I
Mm-hmm.
endorse that plan. But if you're not sure, if you're not really, really sure,
Mm-hmm.
then at least take time off to think
Yeah.
about what you want to do. Try being a composer for a while in the world, see how that feels,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, and then you can either not or make the decision a little bit later.
Yeah.
Um, you know, that was a no-brainer decision for me. Also, I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel like I would be well suited to academia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now that I'm older, I do really like going to schools and like giving master classes and talking to
Mm-hmm.
students, and I have the occasional private student, and I love doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm glad that I can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, at the time I was like, oh no, I shouldn't do that. I don't think that would go well at all. And I think I think I knew myself well enough
Yeah.
to that was the right decision. So yeah, and the way I've made it work for myself is that I've kind of always had a part-time job
Mm-hmm.
and on the side
Mm-hmm.
so that I had a little bit more little as much time as I could
Mm-hmm.
for composing, and just sort of have made my life work
Mm-hmm.
that way. And luckily I had a kind of a cool weird skill set that let me be employable
Yeah.
in sort of technology things. Um, I worked as a theater tech
Mm.
and as an audio engineer at NPR, and did things like that. But it's always been full time, or sorry, part time. Excuse
Mm-hmm.
me, with a couple like quick forays into full time, which
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh,
Yeah. No, oh
I
wait,
miss
never mind.
composing. Yeah, but so that worked for me, and it
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been. People are always like, well, what about health insurance? What about this? And I've always had my own health insurance. It's
Mm-hmm.
been fine.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it work.
Yeah.
It's absolutely possible to make it work,
Yeah. Yeah. I
to
know.
do what you want to do, and in some cases, my sort of day jobs were helpful for my musical career,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. The
Yeah.
fact that I could read music was really helpful when I was at NPR, and they let me do really cool things that some of the other engineers weren't allowed to do because they couldn't read music.
Oh,
So
nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
So it's a symbiotic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Having other jobs is not all bad by any means,
Yeah.
and I've actually really come to appreciate my other experiences. I've also had jobs that had nothing to do with music,
Mm-hmm.
early on that were helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Like in learning how to talk to all kinds of different people
Mm-hmm.
from all kinds of different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Basic human things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everybody gets those. If you grow up, if you're a musician who, has been doing your thing since you were two and
Mm-hmm.
has been ensconced in conservatory and music is all you think about all
Mm-hmm.
day, that's cool. I think that's wonderful. That's a
Yeah.
wonderful, luxury to have a life like that.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe, it's tougher to talk to people who don't know anything about music, or who,
Mm-hmm.
are from a really, really different socioeconomic class or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Yeah.
so I feel well rounded at this point
That's good. That's
from all
good.
the jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was in the day job business, I spent, I forget how many years. I could do the math, but I'm not gonna. Like when I moved to New York, I temped. It was like full time temping, and I
Mhm.
could bounce from job to job. Oh, they only need me for a week, great, and then I move on, and I'm not sick of that job. But I definitely learned a lot of great skills from working in offices. Doing jobs that I hated. I despised the reception gigs that I'd get because I'm terrified of phones or terrified of talking to strangers on the phone. I don't like that.
Uh-huh.
But it does force you to do it, and you
Yeah.
learn that it's not so scary, even though I still don't like to do it. And also filing, like just being organized about things that and
Totally.
dealing with details that are important to other people and not necessarily to you, but being able to follow those instructions. And I ended up in a number of finance jobs. I was a hedge fund administrator for 6 months on
What?
Wall Street. Yeah, I
Oh,
did
that's
that.
fabulous.
Yeah,
You win for
yeah. It was
interesting day jobs.
it was a fund of it was a fund of funds. So it wasn't like the fast paced hedge fund stuff. It was slow moving funds of subsidiary funds and but I loathed it. I hated. I started as a temp, and they're like, "Hey, you're not dumb, and we have an opening. You want it?" I'm like, "Salary, great." And like 6 months in, I said, "No, thank you. I have to go. I'm happy to be hourly." And I learned a lot from that job, and they actually brought me back hourly, which was awesome. That was nice. And then later I ended up doing nonprofit finance for a theater for almost 3 years. So I know a lot of accounting stuff, so I can follow my
That's
expenses. I can
great.
see where's the money
You
coming in, where's the
you
money
need
not
that
coming in.
stuff. You
Yeah,
need
and
that stuff.
it's
Yeah.
there's no mystery to it. I mean, in the world, there's very little mystery to how you track income and expenses, but it's completely demystified when you're in it for a little while and get to learn
Yeah.
that skill
Yeah.
outside of the musical realm
Right.
and then apply it to your own career.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah, I like to think I'm a little well-rounded as well.
Indeed you are. Cheers to that.
Especially after, getting married, you get a little more well-rounded.
Truth.
um, so, is there any other like advice stuff that you get asked?
um, let's see. Sometimes about I'm putting an album out. What should I,
Mm-hmm.
how should I do that? Should I go with
Mm-hmm.
label? Should I work with a publicist?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, yeah, different, all kinds of different things.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get more gigs? How do I do this? I'm not sure I have answers for all those questions, but
Yeah.
um, I try to be helpful.
Yeah. And
Um,
yeah, before we started the show, I mentioned that you know we can totally retread some of the stuff from the episode that I recorded yesterday with Rob Deemer. The idea that when people ask advice or when you're giving advice, there's always that feeling from the person giving it that like your mileage may vary.
yeah, yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
That what I'm going to tell you, maybe this worked for me, and it
exactly. Yeah,
might not
yeah,
work for you. But how do I get more gigs? I, what's your career like? What's your music like? What circles do you move in? What are you aiming for?
yeah,
What kind of gigs you're looking for?
yeah.
It's difficult. It can be difficult to answer
Oh, yeah.
those
The
things.
huge, wide open questions
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like with the doctorate question. What do you want? What are
yeah.
you after?
What do you really, really want?
Mhm.
Where do you see, the awful question, where do you see yourself in 10, 20 years?
Mhm.
I can tell you that it will change,
Mhm.
but you can
As of this
imagine,
moment, yeah. Yeah.
you can imagine what you would like, what your ideal situation would be,
Yeah.
you know. Um, I talked recently with somebody about networking,
Mhm.
networking. I
Mhm.
don't like that word too much, but it's a thing. There's so many people who are scared about and nervous about networking and going out and meeting people and
Mhm.
trying to secure performances
Mhm.
and commissions and things by networking. And you know as you say, mileage may vary.
Mhm.
My tact for that, and I can tell you that I have always been a very pretty shy person, not a total
Mhm.
introvert, but like when I started out, I just was terrified to
Mhm.
go into a group of composers or musicians or whatever and talk to
Mhm.
people, or go up to an ensemble after a performance and tell them that I liked it or
Yeah.
whatever. That took every ounce of all the bravery I had in my
Yeah.
body, and then 3 days to recover from it. But
Yeah.
and all I can ever tell people about that is take a deep breath
Mhm.
and dive in.
Yeah.
Figure out something that have something articulate that you can say about you and your work,
Mhm.
and dive in
Yeah.
and be nice. You don't just go ask for a gig.
Mhm.
You start up a conversation.
Yeah.
Be friendly.
Mhm.
See what can happen. A lot of times nothing will happen, but you may have made a connection with that
Mhm.
ensemble.
Yeah.
And when they come back to your town in 5 years, you can say, hey, it's nice to see you again, la la
Mhm.
la. It takes a really long time,
Yeah.
to
Yeah, and
make
if you
stuff
make
happen. But
yeah, if you can make that connection, then friend them on Facebook or follow them on Twitter, and you can interact there and create a a more
right.
lasting, a deeper connection that maybe they'll do your works, maybe they won't, but
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
they know that you're a decent person and you're
Yeah.
not you're not a you're not a crazy person,
Right.
then
Right.
then they'll you'll at least be in their mind, hopefully. Um,
Right.
I
Right.
actually a couple like 2 months ago or something, a friend of mine Was like, oh, you need to talk to so and so. Just tell her that that I said to talk to her, and then she'll know you're not crazy. And I'm like,
Right.
oh yeah, like, and I kind of realized that when I email people out of the blue, I always make a point of saying so and so said I should talk to you, and it's not just that like, oh yeah, I know them. It's they're vouching for me that I'm not going to be nuts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. The approved, not crazy card. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's important to
Yes.
me.
Yes, introductions by friends or
Mhm.
colleagues are great.
Yeah, they can be
Super helpful, can
really
really
good.
like speed
Mhm.
things along, and also assure the person that you want to meet that you are not bonkers.
Mhm.
That's really great. Yeah, absolutely. And also, I really think it's important when you find something about a performance or an ensemble or a person or whatever, if they did something that you really like,
Mhm.
tell them,
Yeah.
communicate, send them an email,
Mhm.
just like give them some love. Tell them, I really, Dennis, I really love the podcast with Rob Deemer because you talked about X, Y, and Z, and thank you.
Mhm.
That's really important. I can trace, you know, the last my very best gigs from the last almost 10 years from a single email that I
Mhm.
sent, wanting nothing
Yeah.
except to tell this person
Mhm.
that I thought the thing they did was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, that I expected nothing from
Mhm.
it, but yet
Yeah.
it snowballed into all kinds of really cool stuff that
Yeah.
I never ever could have, predicted,
Yeah. I feel
you
like
know.
with networking, everybody thinks of it with networking with a capital N. It, going into a room with your business cards and having an agenda. And
Yeah.
I never have found that to work. I try to have business cards, but I usually forget them at home. But I always think of it networking with a lowercase n. It's you go
Yeah.
into a room and you just want to meet some people,
Yeah.
and you're not there. You can have a little agenda in the back of your brain. We all do, but to go into a room and say, I'm going to get a performance out of this, then good luck with that because it's not going to happen. But to
Yeah.
go into a room and say, I want to say hi to that person because I like what they do and I want to let them know that I think they're cool. And then I'm going to meet someone else. And I don't know who that is, but I'm going to meet somebody. A couple years ago,
Yeah.
I was at a concert also at Symphony Space. And it was after something by David Del Tredici. I forget which piece it was, but um, Vivian Perlis was in the room, and I was like, I'm gonna say hi to her. Like I like what she does. I'm just gonna say hi, and I did, and we talked for a minute, and that was that. We've never spoken since. But just to be in the room and to say hi was nice. Also that night, there was an author in the room whose work I really liked, and we started talking, and we're just having a wonderful conversation. He said, "You're a young composer. You should be networking right now." He actually said specifically, "I'm surprised you're not looking over my shoulder for the next person to talk to because so many people do that." It's like, well, I don't do that, and B, I am networking right now. Like I'm talking to you. I like what you do, and yeah, someday actually would like to make an opera out of one of your novels, and so let's talk about that at some point. But right now we're talking about this, and now we're friends.
Yeah.
This
There you go.
and nothing's come of
Having
that.
conversations,
Yeah.
being yourself, sometimes it's hard to get started in
Mm-hmm.
that room, but you
Yeah.
just, yeah, power through.
Yeah, and that's why there's
Take a
wine
breath,
these
shake a
days.
hand. Yeah, exactly.
Have a glass of wine, if you're not going to be crazy with the with the booze, have a glass of wine. It's a nice little social lubricant. Say hi. Be be friend. Everybody's like half the people in the room are as nervous as you are about
Oh,
saying
totally.
hi to other people.
Yeah.
So talk to them.
Yeah.
Say hello. It, the
Yeah.
only thing that's going to come out of it, the only thing that could happen is the conversation won't go anywhere.
Right.
It'll be a little awkward, and you move on.
And you say, it was great to talk to you. Have a
Mm-hmm.
good evening.
Yeah,
And you
and you
go
move
meet
on.
another person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I think.
totally doable. I think
Yeah.
I think that in situations like that, especially if they're sort of, fancy symphony spacey things
Mm-hmm.
like that. One thing that I've learned, and I tell younger composers this all the time, is that, it's really easy to get starstruck by this or that person
Mm-hmm.
in the room, but we are all people.
Yeah.
Those, Pulitzer Prize winning composers or whoever you're into,
Yeah.
they have pores, they
Mm-hmm.
like pizza,
Mm-hmm.
that they have to wash their hair too,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're people. They're people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I know a number of well-known composers, and one of them in particular. A lot of people are like, oh, maestro, 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 and that drives me nuts. Can we stop calling people maestro? Can we just
yeah.
strike that word? But yeah, I'm like, you mean, and I'll say their name. Like, oh, do you know the maestro? Yeah, I know so and so, and I'm thinking like I've heard him fart. Like this is a person. These are human beings. Like they
Yeah.
put on their pants one leg at a time, like we
Yeah. Exactly. And I think it's easy to forget that, and
Yeah.
if you're nervous and
Mm-hmm.
starstruck or whatever. But
Yeah.
yes, gleaned from many years of New Music Box interviews with fancy composers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes they roll out of bed and haven't combed their hair, and
Mm-hmm.
it's this is like everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah. One networking. I mean, it's a silly, stupid little networking mistake in quotes that I remember making when I was early 20s. So, 10 years ago. Uh, I met Paul Muldoon at a concert, and um, so we started talking, and he was asking questions about me. Like, what do you do? What have you been writing? Because he knew I was a composer because I studied with a friend of his, and and I kept deflecting and asking him about him, and making the conversation about him and his achievements. And afterward, the mutual friend said he was interested in talking to you about you. You all like if you're a young composer and someone like famous asks you questions about you, you answer them.
Yeah,
And ever
that's
since
true.
then, I've tried to keep that in mind. That yeah, so and so is famous, and they're asking questions about me, so I'm gonna answer them.
Yes.
And
Yes. That said, you should have answers in mind. If
mm-hmm.
you know, if that's a nerve-wracking thing, have the basics in your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are you writing
Should,
right now? Ugh.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Oh, blank. I've done
Yeah.
that so many times, like
Uh-huh.
total, yeah, brain cramp. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Oh, the joys of networking.
yay.
Yay. Well, we're at the hour mark, so
Okay.
let's maybe wrap up. So I always ask at the end of a show, um, where do we find you online, and how do we get in touch with you to ask you questions like, should I get my doctorate?
I have my website, alexandragardner.net,
Mm-hmm.
and my email is right on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's alex@alexandragardner.net.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always happy to hear from people with questions or not, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's how to find me. That's the easiest way. I do the Twitter thing a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So at Alex Gardner is
Nice.
my handle there. But yeah, the website is the best way, and just email are the best way to get hold
Cool.
of me. Yeah.
Oh, and you've got excitement on the street out there.
Oh yeah, sorry. Baltimore, Baltimore.
I'm surprised I've never had a siren here. I've had the AC on before, and you can always hear my fridge. So,
Yeah.
so thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for inviting me. This was fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah,
So
anytime.
yeah, so stick around for a second. Don't close the window. I'm going to stop the broadcast. And everybody, thanks for listening.